and welcome to Chrysalis Chats. My name is Tanya, and like a caterpillar to a butterfly, I help people metamorphosize their diets and lifestyles to be plant-based. I'm excited to be here with you at the beach today. We're going to be going into LAWNS, the 5 things that plants need to survive, and how you can use that as a metaphor for your own life. Not to mention, if you are a 100% plant-based individual or somebody working to bring in more plants into their lifestyle, it's kind of cool if you learn a little bit more about how those plants are actually existing and living to go ahead and support you in your life. So, with no further ado, LAWNS, what the heck am I talking about? Light, air, water, nutrients, and soil. Spoiler alert, I spent many of my adult years and I'm still working with kids in environmental education, so kind of, bridging the gap between an everyday kid's life and nature, quote unquote, because in our modern day American society, at least, we tend to be pretty disjointed from nature, which is kind of crazy, right? So LAWNS, that's where it actually came from. My background in youth development, that's an acronym that we can use to understand plants better. So whether you're a kid or an adult watching this, kudos to you, because you're learning more about plants, and plants are totally cool. So with no further ado, let's get into it. Light. What's up with light? Well, as we learned in a previous video, if you didn't already know, which I think a lot of us have known for a long time, plants use light from the sun in order to convert their energy, right? And so that's, literally how they make their energy, from sunlight. That's called photosynthesis, photolight synthesis, to make something out of it. So with that said, how can we take that metaphor? Like this tree right here, it's literally taking life force from the sun to grow its leaves. That's pretty incredible if you ask me. And so how can we use that as a metaphor? Well, I did a whole video on that, but kind of the summary that I would say is look at how the sun is giving you life in your everyday life. Look at who is your sun. Obviously, there's the literal sun, and if you're a plant-based person, or even if you're a meat eater, even if you're somebody who's eating a whole lot of animal products, those animals had to eat something, right? And they ate plants, and that's just the matter of it. So all that energy that you're eating, no matter what you're eating, is from the sun. That's pretty incredible. Like, our sun is literally helping life happen. That's why in a lot of ancient cultures, so many ancient civilizations, people knew that the sun was a very special entity, and there's all sorts of gods and whatnot that they named the sun after, like Ra, for example, in Egyptian traditions. There's all sorts. Apollo, you can look at all sorts of different sun gods and whatnot. But the point being, who is giving you life force? What is giving you life force? Obviously, there's the literal sun, even as a human, and through a plant, through looking at a plant through the plant's lens, we can see that the sun provides a lot of energy and a lot of life force. But taking it a bit further, like, who is your sun? Who gives you the energy? Who gives you the life force? Who stimulates you? Who gives you passion? Who helps you keep going? Who is the person who's always in your corner, right? Like, who's putting sun on you? Who's not casting shade on you, right? That's your sun. So just kind of recognizing that sun. Maybe they never ask for anything in return. That's another quality. Like the plants, how do they really in turn benefit the sun? Maybe there's a way, but I don't really know, right? They definitely benefit the planet, but how do they get back to the sun? I'm not sure. So who's that person who's just like so bawling and like just like they just like give and give and give and give and give, and they don't really ask anything back from you? That's kind of like that sun energy, okay? So I don't know, just some food for thought. Thought it was cool to share. But air. So air, obviously plants, they take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. So they give like fresh air to us humans to breathe, because we need oxygen, and not all of our atmosphere by any means is oxygen. A lot, actually like 70% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. And so, that's important too. But in terms of our lungs and what our bodies need to like live and develop energy, we actually need a lot of oxygen. And so plants help give off oxygen. They take in the CO2 and they let out the fresh air. That's what a plant does. So they need air though to survive. So they need the CO2. And what we exhale, that's all carbon dioxide, and that's feeding this plant. And then in turn, that plant gives us fresh oxygen, O2, okay? So CO2 to O2 through a plant, it's a symbiotic relationship. We need what the plants give and vice versa. Granted, we put a lot of extra CO2 carbon dioxide into our atmosphere with the burning of fossil fuels. That's why we're undergoing global warming. That's one of the reasons, actually. So, it's imbalanced, but the point being is that there's a symbiotic relationship. We benefit together. It's called mutualism in ecology, and between plants. And so they serve us, And with that said, thinking about air in your own life and how you can benefit from that, like, how are you providing somebody else something that is serving them, but that ultimately comes back to serve you? So kind of like symbiotic relationships. Who in your life are you building symbiotic relationships with? Who or what are you building a symbiotic relationship with? Just some food for thought. Whose life force is your life force, and they somehow complement each other? Yin and yang, right? Same idea. With that said, we're going to move on to water. Obviously, I'm at the water today. We all need water. Our bodies are something like 90% water, craziness, right? But with that said, we totally need water to live, and so do plants. So we kind of understand each other through that, and I like to look at how a plant is doing when I walk up to it, and maybe it's really thirsty, and that kind of shows me obviously that plant is struggling, right? But at the same time, like, think about that for your own self. If you walk up to yourself and you're like, oh, I feel like crap today, like, oh, you're just having like one of those days, drink some water, because it's likely enough that you need more water in your life at that moment, and that it would just help you kind of like cleanse yourself and feel, generally better. So with that said, I encourage you, friend, to drink your water, okay? Obviously it's a really important thing. We could talk about water all day. There's so many important resources out there. For example, Food and Water Watch. If you have not checked that out, go to their website. I can't remember if it's .org or .com, but Food and Water Watch, amazing information coming out there, okay? But nutrients. So are you eating enough? This plant looks like it's getting a fair amount of nutrients, even though it's growing out of like a crack, like there's a bunch of like rocks that I'm standing on right now, but it's like living, right? And it's getting some type of a nutrient source from the earth, and probably all this decaying dead matter around it, okay? Not to mention what's coming out of the lake. I'm sure there's a lot of nutrients in the lake that is soaking up. So with that said, thinking about nutrients, if you walk up to a plant and it looks like it has speckled leaves or like white spots or whatever, oftentimes that means that there's not a lot of nutrients, not enough nutrients, and that can cause a lack of growth altogether. And that's kind of like really a metaphor in terms, it translates again, just like water, pretty directly to like your existence as a human, right? So are you eating enough superfoods? Are you eating enough vegetables? Are you eating raw fruits and vegetables? Are you? Just checking. So point being though, are you getting your nutrients? I hope you're getting good nutrients in your life, because it makes a world of a difference in terms of how you experience the world and how you feel and how you literally grow your muscle or whatever you're trying to grow, okay, in your life. So that's nutrients. Last but not least, plants need soil or substrate, something to grow in. So this is a really cool one to think about in terms of metaphorically, like where is your home? Who is home? What is home? All these different things that you can think about, like how are you putting up roots where you're at? Do you not put up roots? Are you like an air plant, like a tillandsia, and you're just like, I root wherever, I'm in the air, man, I don't need to like soil? Or are you a tree? Are you like this massive, awesome, like ancient tree, like in the making? Yeah, I had like a Dharma moment, like Dharma and Greg. But anyway, like what are you growing, right? Like who are your roots? What is your root? What are you rooting into? Like what are you growing in your life? Like what are you anchored in, right? And that metaphor is pretty, again, it translates pretty easily. Like if you see a plant that's been uprooted and just kind of pulled out, and it's like dehydrated and dying because it doesn't have water, it doesn't have soil, right, or substrate, something to grow in, and it doesn't have nutrients anymore, it just has sun and air, it's not going to grow very well, okay? And this is, again, the recipe, LAWNS. And this is just, we could translate this to so many different things, y'all. We could put this on an elemental scale of water, earth, air, fire. We could do all sorts of things with this metaphor, right? But point is, what are you rooting into? How are you supporting the healthy development of your roots? And with that, my friend, I think we're going to wrap it up. This was just an overview of the metaphor that you can learn from plants, and what they need to survive. Again, they need lawns, light, air, water, nutrients, and soil. And with that, I just want to thank you, everybody who's been supporting my channel here, Chrysalis Chats, checking out the Instagram, looking at my website. I've been posting some new recipes on my website, chrysalisandcocoon.com. Let me know if those are of interest. You can always put a little comment. I have the Facebook comments enabled on the website. And on Instagram, I put up some daily content for the most part. So with that said, friends, whether you're just a small little caterpillar starting off like, where are the leaves at? Or a full-fledged butterfly sipping the nectar of a plant-based diet, you, my friend, are awesome. Have a blessed day.